Gather round the flickering candlelight and prepare to cross the veil. Each week on the Boocifer Seance, your ghostly guides, Mrs. and Mr. Boo, summon a chilling new tale from the other side. From haunted mansions and cursed forests to restless spirits with unfinished business, this spectral duo dives deep into spine-tingling ghost stories that will haunt your dreams. Whether it's a forgotten legend or a real-life haunting, no story is too eerie for the Boos to conjure. So light a candle, clutch your blanket tight, and dare to join the seance, because once you listen, something might just follow you home. Enter, if you dare.
This video discusses difficult and potentially distressing themes. If you are sensitive to this material, please proceed with caution. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome, brave souls, to the Boocifer Seance, where Mr. and Mrs. Boo pull back the veil between the living and the things that linger just beyond it. Tonight, we travel to the frozen forests of North America and the shadowed villages of Europe to meet two of winter's most terrifying legends, the Wendigo and Krampus. On one side, the Wendigo, a spirit of insatiable hunger, born of starvation, cold, and isolation. The stories warn us not just of what lurks outside, but what can grow inside. A human can become this monster, driven to cannibalism, consumed by greed, losing all trace of the self. Its long limbs reach through the darkness, eyes glowing with unending hunger, hunting silently through snow-laden forests. A warning, whispered in Algonquian lore: beware your cravings, for the Wendigo feeds not just on flesh, but on the weakness in your soul. And on the other side, the Krampus, half goat, half demon, a chaotic punisher born of old European tradition. While St. Nicholas brings joy to the good, Krampus carries chains, birch rods, and baskets for the naughty. He stomps through villages on cold December nights, dragging the disobedient to punishment, or worse. He is loud, he is merciless, he is ritualized fear turned into entertainment, blurring the line between discipline and terror. One haunts the wilderness, the other haunts our towns. One preys on isolation and desperation, the other preys on guilt and misbehavior. One is slow, cunning, a psychological predator. The other is immediate, physical, a creature of spectacle and punishment. And yet, both endure. The Wendigo stalks hikers and hunters in whispered modern sightings. Its shadow lingers in films like Antlers and games like Until Dawn. Krampus marches through the streets each December in Austria, terrifying children and tourists alike, while horror movies and TV shows bring him into our living rooms. These monsters, though centuries old, have adapted. They have survived because they touch something timeless, our fear of what we might become, and our fear of being judged for what we've done. So tonight, we ask the question, which winter terror would you rather encounter? Which one chills you to the bone? And which one makes your mind twist in ways you can't escape? Step closer, light your candle, and prepare your salt circle. Mr. and Mrs. Boo are about to guide you into the shadows where the Wendigo and Krampus await. Will you survive the telling?
Oh man, oh man. Hello. I am, if you are just now tuning in, this is your first episode. I am Miss Boocifer.
And I am Mr. Boocifer.
It's been a while. It's been a very while.
As it has.
Oh man. Are you guys excited for Krampus and the Wendigo?
Yeah. See which one's nastier.
I can already tell you which one, but we'll let you guys decide.
You always seem to have an opinion, and I get this gut feeling that it's so far from my opinion.
I don't know. This one we might actually come together and be like, "Oh, we agree. It's not about aliens. It's
never
not
know.
about ghosts."
There's always a chance that we might agree on something. So yeah, today we're going to be discussing the Wendigo, which we've talked about a little bit before, and then Krampus, and we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of these two evil creatures, beings, whatever you want to call them. And at the end, we're going to decide which one's worse.
Yep, yep, yep. So I'm gonna start off with the Wendigo because I think I think he's badass. So the Wendigo comes from and you're gonna laugh at me when I say it because I probably can't. The Algonquin people.
Algonquin? Let that New Jersey come out in you.
Oh, they always tied it to the brutal winters, famine, and survival. Um, the Wendigo represents greed that can never be satisfied, cannibalism during starvation, and loss of humanity, and spiritual corruption. Uh, and you can turn into a Wendigo by committing cannibalism during famine, consumed by greed or selfishness, invited dark spiritual influence. Uh, Normally, with the Wendigo, they always give the warning when survival turns moral collapse, the human spirit becomes monstrous. Um, traditionally, um, he's described as extremely thin, almost skeletal, lips torn or missing, gray or ash colored skin, glowing eyes, sunken eyes, frozen heart. Modern horror media, they added what is it, like a deer head or deer skull with the antlers. Um, like games. It's like if you ever played Until Dawn, which is a pretty good game, and now movie. Um, there's a Wendigo in that, or is it? Yeah, he's on Until Dawn. Uh, and then the Wendigo. So still to this day, the Wendigo still matters. Because culturally, it represents destructive greed, colonial exploitation, addiction. For some cultures, it represents hunger for power. So scholars even use the term Wendigo psychology to describe society driven by endless consumption. Um, I think the Wendigo is scary because the Wendigo was not born a monster. It was a human whose spirit became disease and transformation could begin. So he either fell into a town where he was so hungry and the only thing he could do, I guess, was eat his best friend, um, or was obsessed with wealth. So I guess you could call me the Wendigo of gamers. You'll know this one, Tarkov.
You are definitely the Wendigo of Tarkov.
Belief was that once greed entered deeply enough, the person's soul froze and changed, which then would start to trigger the Wendigo. Um, many stories focus on the sound before sight. So normally, if a wind, like let's say you're in the woods, normally you'll hear footsteps in deep snow, the crackling of trees, um, unnatural breathing, and voices calling your name from the woods. And it was always said traditionally, hearing your name in the forest at night was a warning not to answer.
That's some damn what do you call it? Appalachian storytelling shit there. They always say, like, if you hear a whistle in the woods, don't whistle back. If you hear your grandma call your name at night, don't believe it. That's like some Appalachian folklore, it sounds like to me.
um. Yep. The Wendigo spirit gradually possesses people. So sudden, like, let's say Jim Bob down the road ate his buddy Marco, and he suddenly got a violent appetite. He started withdrawing himself from the community, fear of warmth, talking strangely, craving isolation. Um, that has the I can't say their names. The Algonquin
Conquin.
people said they described it as Wendigo sickness, and it was a spiritual emergency. You had to get like the head honcho to get his little minions and do like a little dance around the fire type deal and kind of banish the spirit. Um, Nowadays you don't hear about the Wendigo much besides, I guess, the recent game and movie, because they believed that if it was talked about too much, they believe naming spirits would invite them. And you don't, I mean, Wendigo, we do not invite you into our home. I've watched enough movies.
Just one of those Facebook posts. I do not accept your evil.
Exactly.
I do not accept any evil from this post. And weird old ladies on Facebook.
But
I do not accept any evil energy from you.
I promise if it takes the Wendigo spirit, I guess I have. I'll start deleting my stash in Tarkov. I'll delete items. I'll give items I find in the dorms. I mean, you guys can start having a little more. I'm not giving you all of it. Like, I'll throw a nail or two to the side. So, what do you have on the
Yeah,
Wendigo?
a lot of the same topics. But just a couple things I want to hit on with the Wendigo. To me, this is a good starting point because unlike other creatures through paranormal history or spooky history or whatever you want to call it, the Wendigo is one that actually consumes you. So they say it doesn't just eat flesh, it consumes restraint. That there is no monster out there, that you are the monster. So, if it triggers a lot of words in our history of, you hear about tribes in different countries that practice cannibalism and, maybe suffer from things like starvation, isolation, desperation. That's not something that you're used to hearing as supernatural. It's something that's very human. People suffer from these things every day. And to me, it makes it a scarier topic that it's something that happens all the time. Is this a psychological thing that could happen to anyone? It feels real more than other legends. Um, I know personally, I can definitely attest to the going out in the woods. And I mean, I was in Boy Scouts for a long time, still very involved. And I can tell you there's been times when I was backpacking through the New Mexico mountains and you stand outside your tent at 1 o'clock in the morning and you try to convince me that there's not something else out there besides me. I'm not believing you. But, um, and it's anything, most of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight, it's all and stuff we've talked about in other episodes, I guess is what I'm trying to say as well, is I'm a big believer of if a story carries on for years and years and years, and folklore is good at that, but if you look at a lot of folklore that isn't maybe as believable, things evolve, things change, the Wendigo becomes something totally different. And this is one story, like others we've talked about, that's remained the same pretty much through its whole history. Now, it, of course, has evolved a little bit, but the requirements, I guess, of this legend are the same today. Um, and I guess another part of it is there's no way to escape it. Once this has consumed you and you become this Wendigo, there is no way to go back. And it's the embodiment of what a lot of people look at as sin or whatever, if you want to go down the religious route, but ideas that translate beyond the folklore, things like greed, addiction, obsession, you know, things like that, that attest and contribute to you becoming this creature, and it eventually destroys you because of it. And these are very real things. So if this does have any rapport and it does carry any weight, it's definitely something that it's a different kind of horror. It's a different kind of scary to me. It's not death. It's not the usual aliens coming down in a saucer. It's not an entity standing in the corner of my room trying to scare me. You chuckle at that, but it's easy for me to sit here and say that I don't believe in something I've never seen. But when you talk about the Wendigo, you're talking about things that a lot of us do. A lot of us have fell victim to, whether it be obsession or greed or whatever, and maybe not into the point of affecting others or anything like that, but something that could lead to this becoming a truth. And then that monster becomes you and you're trapped there forever and there's no way out of it. To me, it's just a different kind of horror. But so next, that's the Wendigo, and we'll come back. Those are just some of the big highlights. But now I want to hear your thoughts on Krampus, because right now I'm just going to set the stage. Right now, I have the Futurama image of robot Santa in my head, and this is what I'm imagining Krampus as. So, I've heard a lot through my childhood of what Krampus is, and I've seen the spooky images of the claws and all that good stuff, and I've seen, of course, like I said, the the Futurama robot Santa Krampus type thing, but I've never really. This is one thing I've never really dived into, so I'd be curious to hear what you found out about it.
All right. So I found out that Krampus was a horned winter spirit described as a half ghost, half demon. He was covered in dark fur, with horns, claws, a long tongue, chains. He carried like a birch rod and switches.
Sound like my mama. I mean, minus the claws and shit, but the switches.
His role is the opposite of Saint Nick. Saint Nick rewards, Krampus spanks. Um, Krampus would swat the children with birch branches, drag them away in baskets or sacks. Krampus was around before Christmas tradition absorbed him, making uh and I'm gonna butcher this so bad because I'm American. Um Krampusnacht. It translates to
Krampusnacht.
there you go. It translates to Krampus night, which is December 5th. If any of you people after this podcast want to join in the Krampus shenanigans. Um During the event, young men would wear terrifying mask costumes and run through the villages, shackling trains, ringing cowbells, chasing people, creating chaos before Saint Nicorot. Um, Krampus Loof is I guess, when Krampus parades around the Alpine towns. Older traditions from the Alpine villages, Krampus was said to do more than scare children. He would stuff them in a sack or a wicker basket, carry them into the forest or cave or mountain, whatever was near, and he would either drown them, eat them, or drag them straight to hell. Um, but that is really all I've found on Krampus. That was like um the older tradition. before I guess he got involved with like Santa Claus and was like, "Hey Santa, I got a deal for you. Like, what are you doing with the naughty ones? I got plans." But that's really all I found.
So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much on the same page. You know, this was, I read a line that kind of resonated with me, and it says that Krampus comes from a time or represents a time in history when fear wasn't just a byproduct of a story. Like we sit here and we tell this story about the things that could have happened or did happen, but Krampus was a tool. Um, a lot of parents used it as, they just weren't told to behave. They were threatened with being taken or being switched, or they were being told these stories in an effort to keep them in line. Um, and you can ask yourself, was this something of true fear? Was this something of the morality of the generation? Was it genuine? You know, I'm sure a lot of these stories originated because of something, whether it was Krampus, whether it was, I don't know, a serial killer or something going on, and wherever it started, that started this story. But originally it was used more and less as a scary story around a campfire, and more as a parenting tool, to try to get children to behave. Um, some of the big points with Krampus, um, very resonating from the Santa side of things, is he's not random in what he does. He's very targeted. Um, he doesn't hunt weak, he hunts the guilty. So it doesn't matter if you're a big and strong football player or you're the nerd playing video games. He treats everyone equally as guilty ones. Um, he also has, he almost reminds me of like a, if you've ever seen the movie Judge Dredd, he reminds me of like a judge in the
I
future,
am the law.
and right, and he has purpose, he has rules, and in his own way he considers it justice, and he is very structured in that manner, versus where most monsters, most scary stories, like, that have some sort of creature, are usually, the kid was playing by himself, so that's why he got drug in the woods, or you were out lollygagging by the lake and the lake monster drug you in, or whatever. This is different. It's very rule based. It's very structured. Um, he doesn't wonder if you deserve it or not. He much like Santa, he already knows whether or not you're guilty of what he believes, and that's why he's there. Now, what's different about Krampus than most other things like the Wendigo, things like that, is that people have turned fear into celebration. So, like she was mentioning the Krampus night or whatever, and people dress as him and they become him and they celebrate him, and instead of fearing the monster, they try to embody the monster. But at the same time, there's something unsettling about people willing to step into a role of punishment. So, again, going back to the beginning of this, the origination of Krampus, that he was used as a punishing tool, and now these people celebrate it, to me is kind of off putting. Um, you know, and then there's a very thick line of, normally we talk about a thin line you're walking, but is it people putting on masks and they're swinging chains and they're chasing people? Is that the performance, or is that people trying to become a Krampus? Because at the same time, there's a psychological shift with anonymity, or anonymity, fear, and tradition. And at what point does celebrating him and dressing like him and treating people like him, at what point do you become him? And to me, it's just one of those things that I find it odd, if you look through the things we talk about, that there's not a lot of, our usual topics of aliens and ghosts and paranormal activity. I don't see anyone having a parade celebrating The Conjuring. So to me, it's weird. But I feel like maybe it's a psychological change that people are trying to influence away from the old parenting ways of punishing your kids by saying they're going to be drug in the woods if they're bad. I don't know, but clearly there's something different about this. So, but that's what I had on Krampus. But if you look at it, you've got two different reflections of humanity in both of them. One, you got the Wendigo over here that says this is what we become when we lose control. So we lose control of our greed, we lose control of our obsessions, we lose control of whatever. That's how we evolve into the Wendigo. But Krampus is what punishes us when we step out of line. One is the consequence, the other is the judgment. It's kind of a good way to look at it. What else you got? Or you want me to keep talking?
No, that was all I had really on Krampus. If they were face to face with each other, who do you think would win?
I mean, this is my thing. So we're comparing the two now. Like I said, you've got two different reflections. You've got an internal and you have an external horror. So you've got the Wendigo, which is you. You are the Wendigo. You become that. The Krampus is external. It comes for you. So I guess another way to phrase that question is which is more terrifying to you, becoming the monster or being hunted by one? To me, I could try to outrun one, but to me it scares me on a moral level of becoming that monster. Now, if we're talking about them in, like, I don't know, a death match, what is it? Isn't there like a death match show on TV or something that they're in a ring together?
Celebrity death match.
I mean, I'm taking the Futurama Krampus bad Santa guy, robot Santa, over the Wendigo all day long. But I feel like when we talk about why we talk about or when we talk about comparing them as evils and on a scary scale, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I would say the Wendigo because if you didn't know, the Wendigo, when you become it, you have this insatiable hunger. So
Mhm.
every meal he has, he grows, but he still stays skinny. So he never feels that hunger. So he'll just keep growing and growing and growing. At that point, you just step on little Krampus. So I mean, the Wendigo.
I mean, is he growing in? Because the way I understood it was you aren't necessarily growing in size, but your need for whatever obsession or whatever you're greedy for, that need grows. And then you, of course, as your obsession grows, just like in anything you do, you become more passionate. This isn't passion, but just using an example, you become more aggressive, but not necessarily. I didn't take it as you got stronger, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I've never met a Wendigo, so I don't know what that looks like. But I mean, you really have to sit. I mean, I can word this 1,000 ways, but you're really looking at a psychological horror and a physical horror. What scares you more? Something hunting you in the dark, or the idea that you could become the dark? Do you think the window is more terrifying because it's human at its core, or is Krampus worse because there's no escape from you on that list? To me, I think the Wendigo is scarier not because he's stronger, but because it's something that I have no control of it happening. I can try to be good and I can be a good boy and I can stay off the naughty list and try to avoid Krampus. Now, once you fuck up and you on Krampus's list, it's too late at that point, but you at least have a chance there. I feel like with the real world examples that can bring you to becoming a or the Wendigo, to me that's scarier because there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Like
Make some good points.
I mean, if you're, like if you were starving and truly starving, we're not talking about like I'm hungry on a Friday night and I need a candy bar. We're talking about like I'm stranded on an island, kind of starving. And would the Wendigo legend feel less of a myth to us if we were suffering from those things that we said earlier? Like, at what point does survival stop being survival and it becomes something monstrous? When is that step too far? A lot of people label that as cannibalism. That's a step too far. But you don't know, we don't know, nobody I know has ever been to that point. I mean, I've been pretty starving, but I've never been to the point where I thought I should eat my buddy. Like, but if you were, would the story of the Wendigo feel more true? Would it feel more like, would you feel closer to that story than you do Krampus? So, and then you also have to think, when I hear that the whole Krampus was a tool thing, like, do you think Krampus was meant to protect people or control them? To me, it was, the parents meant it to help protect their children, but I think it turned into a controlling fear that they knew that they could use this as a tool. But to me, if my parents or if you as my wife came to me and says, "Hey, if you don't go in there and do the dishes, I'm calling Krampus," like, the effectiveness wore off now. So, you know, but at the end of the day, you're picking a psychological horror over a physical horror, and I feel mentally that I could take the physical horror. I have a chance there, at least that's where my brain goes, versus the psychological horror you have no control over. But here, final answer, if you have to encounter one of them, and by encounter I mean you either have to become the Wendigo or you have to stand face to face with Krampus, which one are you choosing?
Oh, I'm standing face to face with that little heifer with the switch or little birch thing. I'll smack him back. I had a Puerto Rican mom. Ain't nothing he can do to me that hasn't been done.
I mean, I'm with you. If I had to choose, I'm standing with Krampus. I'm taking my chances of beating him or running off, or, I mean, I ain't running far, but I'm taking my chance somewhere. But then the other question is, straight encounter. You've got Wendigo and Krampus standing in front of each other. Genuinely. I'm not talking about in a 3-ring death match or whatever, but there's, you put Wendigo. I say Wendigo because I feel like there can be more than one. And Krampus in the same room. Does Krampus's brute force beat the Wendigo's psychological terror? To each other, not to me or you. Which one walks away?
I guess you'd have to say Krampus because the Wendigo said it's built as like, I mean, well, I guess it'd be like a David and Goliath type deal. Like, how fast is the Wendigo?
I mean, how witty, how, at which stage of Wendigo are you meeting? Like, the Krampus is Krampus. Krampus, like, he doesn't eat 5 kids and then he gets stronger, and then eat 5 more kids and his switch gets longer. Like, this isn't leveling up with him. But like you mentioned, the Wendigo, or a Wendigo, or you become stronger in whatever sense, whether that's in your cessations to continue to do what you're doing, and getting, if it is eating someone, now you want to eat 2 people, and then you eat 2 people, now you want to eat 4 people. Like, there is a progressive aggression with the Wendigo versus Krampus is Krampus. Like, I feel like if Krampus walked into a Wendigo and was like, "I got to switch," and the Wendigo's like, "Well, I just ate 15 people and you're the 16th." Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's gonna be there's gonna be more going on there, but um, you know, I again, just recapping, I think we both agreed that the Wendigo is the scarier of the two. Um, to me, you think about questions like, which one lingers with you more after hearing the story? Like, to me, I feel like in the middle of the summer, it's 115 degrees in South Carolina, and I'm shoveling a ditch, Krampus is the last thing on my freaking mind. But as you battle psychological horror and terror and normal psychological stressors, the Wendigo can be something that's going to linger with you all the time, right? But to me, the Wendigo is scarier for the sole reason that it feels possible versus the Krampus that you may never meet him. It may not be true, but if the stories and the legends of the Wendigo are true, it's something very easy that could happen without you having any control over it.
All right, and now this is my favorite part of the podcast. And people in YouTube, people in Spotify, Twitch, as we're live right now, you can answer this. But these questions are for you, Mr. Boo. If the Wendigo means endless hunger, what human behavior now looks the most Wendigo?
Repeat the question.
If the Wendigo means endless hunger, what human behavior now looks the most Wendigo?
I mean, which human behavior? The one that sticks out to me the most is greed. If greed is something that can transform you into a Wendigo, the world is in freaking trouble, man. Because I mean, I know me, I'm always chasing a promotion, I'm always chasing more money. Everyone is. And if greed is truly something that can change, and maybe that's why we haven't seen as many sightings or whatever of the Wendigo in previous years, because as a generation, as our generation, as the, our children's generations come up, it feels like every time it's getting more and more greedy. We want more money. We want more. We want more. At what point does that greed turn into this?
All right. Why do Wendigo stories still feel disturbing even when we know they are folklore?
Again, I think this goes back to what kind of horror the Wendigo is. It's a psychological horror. To me, it's just like when you watch, at least personally, when I watch something that is you compare aliens and you compare paranormal, okay? And I know we always joke about that on the show, but aliens are a physical being. It either happens or it doesn't. To me, there's a psychological side to paranormal activity. You look at Ed and Lorraine Warren and how she had the visions and things like that and things she couldn't control, and that stuff to me is scarier because there's no way to stop it, there's no way to control it. It just happens. And the Wendigo just happens. You reach a point in your life where you might not know, and it just like that is over. Whereas Krampus, it's a being, it's a thing, it's out there or it's not out there. And right now I've never seen it, so it's not out there. But I have seen the real world examples of the things that can make you a Wendigo.
All right, since we hit off with the Wendigo, let's go back to Krampus. Um, if Krampus appeared in modern society, what kind of behavior would he punish first?
I don't know, man. I mean, you look at, and I think that kind of even resonates with the whole Santa thing. It's like, what puts you on the naughty list anymore? Because if there's really a naughty list out there, and you know, I'm a big believer in Santa. I'm still waiting for my golden ticket to go to the North Pole. But what puts you on the naughty list? Like, I feel like just about everybody, including myself, at one point has done something that should put me on that list. And I, I really don't have an answer to that question, because where we are as a society, where we are as our generations, it's hard. That line is blurred. Of It's not as easy as it was 40 or 50 years ago of this is right, this is wrong. So where do you draw the line? It's a good question. I don't think I have an answer for it.
All right, all right. Is Krampus frightening because he is monstrous or because he was once treated as necessary?
I think it's a two. Obviously, it's a two-sided question, so I'm gonna give you a two-sided answer. I think the answer is yes to both. I think to a lot of people from that generation that maybe were raised with Krampus as the tool to parenting, they may still kind of resent that, um, you know, that fear. They still have that fear in them because that's how they were raised. But at the same time, in modern society, I don't know. I don't know. But ask the question again. I'll only listen to half of it.
The story of a modern husband. Um, is Krampus frightening because he is monstrous, or because he was once treated as necessary?
So we talked about the necessary side about the tool of parenting. I think he is, to some, will still be considered, you know, frightening. And I think that I would like to think that the whole parade and turning into him and things like that are a way to kind of null the fact of how people think he's scary, because if he wasn't, we wouldn't care. Does that make sense? So, like, for instance, you got that mask hanging on the wall behind you. The reason people choose to dress like him and go out on Halloween dressed like him, is it because you thought he was a great actor? No, because the character was good and the character was scary, and a lot of people, I think it takes the edge off when you do that. And to me, when you take that step of having the parades, or dressing like him and celebrating him, it turns into a way to negate the fact that you're scared of it.
Hmm. All right. And this one I'm going to leave with the viewers. So if you watch this on YouTube, comment your answer. If you watch this on Spotify or listen to it, I don't know if you can comment your answer. But if you can, go to YouTube and comment it. Which legend says more about human nature? The monster that punishes evil, or the monster created when humans become desperate?
Good question.
Yep. Yep. I would like to hear your answers on our YouTube comments below. But again, the question is, which legend says more about human nature? The monster that punishes evil, or the monster created when humans become desperate?
All right. Well, I think we've done our due diligence on Krampus and the Wendigo. I hope we didn't drag you along too far and drag you down some thoughtful and meaningful roads tonight. But it's Krampus and the Wendigo are definitely two monsters that dive deep into the soul when it comes to how they are and how they became to be. But so this podcast we're going to try to keep this schedule of doing it on like a Tuesday, but I will have it posted on Friday. I think we're going to stick to the Friday releases. So if you want to get here earlier, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're listening to us on Spotify, we do stream these live on Twitch. We are live on Twitch right now. Come over to Miss Boocifer's channel, give her a follow, give her a subscribe, and you can watch this live as we go through it. We also have a little section after that we go through with chat and answer some questions, and usually that's where we get ideas pitched and things like that. So if you want to be part of that conversation, come over to the Twitch and watch us on Tuesday nights. But if you are watching us watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, we greatly appreciate that. But yeah, so we're going to try to get back on a normal schedule. We took a little hiatus through the holidays there. But hopefully starting on this next one, we're definitely going to have something good for you. Maybe lean back more into the paranormal and the creepier side, scarier side of things. But anyway, check us out on YouTube, check us out on Spotify, come over to the Twitch and drop a follow. But otherwise, we'll see you next time. And as always,
Stay spooky.